What's a windmill's favorite genre of music?
What?
Well, they've always been heavy metal fans. Sometimes the jokes require a little bit of tender love and care, because I saw that was formatted kind of poorly when I looked it up. It was like way more complicated than it needed to be. But I was like, you know what? I can wordsmith my way into making this a better formatted joke, more digestible for the general fan base. Folks, welcome back to Brand Coverage. I'm Brandon Carney alongside Pat Gustafson. Pat, how are we doing today? How are we feeling? How's the vibes?
The vibes are good, but I just want to start and send out some. So there's someone out there that really needs our thoughts and prayers. GP Glazer, if you're out there, keep hope alive.
Yeah,
you were loved.
Yeah,
there is a reason to continue.
Yes, longtime viewer and listener GP Glazer,
and donator.
And donator, more importantly. Yeah, I'm not sure if those who only listen on Spotify are familiar with him, because he's pretty much exclusively in the viewer section portion that we only do on YouTube, but we may have mentioned him once or twice because he's always around. GP Glazer 14 donates $2 basically every week to tell us that George Pickens is going to win Offensive Player of the Year. And Pat, to be quite honest, I don't know what this trade does to his allegiance. I don't know if this is a Steelers fan who's attached himself to George Pickens, or if this is a George Pickens fan who's following him to Dallas. I have no idea.
Yeah, I'm interested to hear that as well. I think he's here. So GP Glazer, drop in, pal.
Let us know. Yeah, we will have to find out. Folks, we've got a lot to cover today. Some football, some not. We are going to start with some basketball and nonsense in a little bit, but I'll just give you a quick rundown of what we got on the show today. Little basketball, little football news. We've got some major things. The Pickens trade that we just alluded to happened like a day after our show last week, so feels like it's a million years ago at this point, but we have yet to talk about it. Little bit of discussion about the NFL schedule release, and then we have a draft about a topic that I think has been long overdue to be talked about on this show, which is the 100 men versus one gorilla debate. But we are going to spin that into Pat and I drafting back and forth athletes that we think could form the best team to beat the gorilla. So it's only going to be 5. We're not going to do 100 because we'd be here all day. Boo. But it is what it is.
What if we have more time?
Yeah, well, I mean, 100 would be something. Also,
not 100, but maybe a little more.
We did just get an update in the chat from GP Glazer. He said, "I'm so sad this is going to be my last dono. Thank you for mentioning me. By the way, I'm a Steelers fan." Thanks a lot, Cowboys. You just cost us $2 a week because GP Glazer is no longer an active user, I guess. I mean, his username and picture are still George Pickens related, but thank you for the $9.99 GP.
Can you that is much switch to Calvin Austin or something and keep the bit going?
Robert Woods Glazer or something? I don't know what we're gonna do. Either way,
Freiermuth, I don't know.
Imagine being a diehard Pat Freiermuth fan.
Hang on a second.
I feel like you're pretty close to that. Anyway, Pat, let's get into the news for the week.
Good evening. I'm Ron Burgundy, and this is what's happening in your world tonight.
Hit the thing. I don't know if that soundbite was delayed for anyone. It was delayed for me. It didn't hit
I heard it
for a minute, but all right, cool. We got it down. Yes, got our news for the week, and we are starting again with non-NFL because this is just so fucking ridiculous that it has to be talked about. I just posted a video on the subject, but I am real life annoyed about this. The Dallas Mavericks got the number 1 overall pick in the NBA draft despite a 1.8% chance at it. They now get to recoup, no pun intended, some value here after trading away Luka Doncic. I am so mad, Pat, and this is, if there was ever fuel on a fire of something being rigged, this is an absolute blazing California wildfire going on right now, because I don't know how you defend this. I don't know how you look at what the Mavs did this season, just destroying the hopes and dreams of a fan base, and whether you want to take the full conspiracy side of things or not and say, they gave Luka to the Lakers so that the Lakers could have a young star with LeBron retired. However you want to put it, either way, the Mavs are getting bailed out and bounced back from just absolute desolation because of some incredibly unlikely scenario, Pat. I'm so annoyed. I can't even make sense of this right now. I don't know what to think. So what was your reaction when...
I'm Ron Burgundy, and this is what's happening in your world.
That's what's happening in your world. I clicked the fucking button. What was your reaction?
Oh, okay.
I accidentally clicked that. What was your reaction, Pat, when you first saw this come down the pipe that the Mavs were getting?
Well, I was watching. I tuned in, and first of all, I tuned in when there were 4 teams left, and all I saw was the Spurs, and I'm just like, please let the funniest thing in the world happen.
Would have been really funny. Would have been almost as unlikely, but still lit.
Fox, our boy, Stephon Castle, Rookie of the Year Stephon Castle, I should say. Come on. I'm not going to sit here and throw fuel on the it's rigged fire. It just sucks that Nico Harrison... I can't even think of an analogy to what it is, but it's basically just like lighting your own house on fire and then getting a free house in return and receiving no punishment for it. Like, come on. And here's the thing, too, is like, the Mavs kind of stunk, right? They could have just kept Luka and still had these same odds in the lottery. And gotten Cooper Flag to team up because they do have some good players on the team, very oft injured players, especially now with Kyrie gonna be out for a little bit. Like, it just sucks. And like, I feel terrible for Jazz fans, for Nets fans who just had to watch their teams, the Wizards fans who have to just watch their teams be absolute dog shit and reap nothing from it. Do I still prefer the new lottery method? Yes, because the NBA is by far the easiest sport to tank in. And it was becoming a huge problem to the point where it was literally openly a team's process to do that. So, like, I like the new lottery method, but I mean, if there's any Utah Jazz fans out there, God, I'm sorry. Like, if you're real, I'm very sorry. But... especially the Wizards to get or the Hawks and the Wizards to get a top pick when it's not Wemby and when it's not Cooper Flag, when it's a couple of French guys. Like, how like, well, Wemby's a French guy too, I suppose.
He's the French guy. Yeah.
How do those guys feel? Yeah, it's just, why? Like, any other team, even the Sixers, it would have been like, oh, cool. The Hornets, oh, God forbid the Hornets. Like, but why? Out of every team in the lottery, the Mavs were the last team that I think anybody except Mavericks fans, maybe even Mavericks fans, wanted to get it.
Yeah, I've said this before, I'll say it again. I don't think I'll ever be in the camp that something is rigged. I think there are too many people that would have to be complicit and stay quiet about like, you're telling me of, just for argument's sake, that all the people involved with, the Hornets organization and the Wizards organization and the Sixers organization, even if they actually thought this was rigged, that they wouldn't, really push back and like either expose it, investigate something. So I don't think this is rigged, but this is the closest I've ever come to thinking something's rigged, because this is a crazy coincidence.
We don't think that Patrick Ewing lottery was rigged, where apparently there was a frozen envelope with he knew not to pick.
The frozen
See, that's
envelope.
The thing. Like, if they were to rig it and do it by that, it wouldn't. No one would have to be very complicit. You wouldn't need that many parties involved to do it. Do I think they did it? No. I just think it sucks that a team that with Cooper Flag could be pretty good pretty quickly. Like, they could turn this around pretty quick. Who could not deserve it less. The fans deserve it, but that organization and Nico Harrison could not deserve Cooper Flag less.
Yeah,
they should be flagless.
They should be flagless. I just can't believe. I can't believe it, and I'm upset. I'm annoyed, and Pat, you mentioned the lottery. Like, I don't know how I feel about the lottery anymore, because it seems like we are getting more and more of these incredibly low percentage teams winning the lottery. It's like every 4 or 5 years, if that, we get a team with like 3% or lower odds winning the lottery. And that just doesn't seem statistically likely to me, which is also fanning the flames of the riggedness of it. I don't know, man. This lottery, like, teams are tanking anyway. I don't know what the solution is to change this or make it better or make it fairer, but like, these teams are missing out on this top pick, and they're just going to keep tanking. I mean, some of the teams, the Jazz, some of the lineups the Jazz were throwing out there this year, Pat, were genuinely disgusting. Like, they were a war crime. And now this team is picking, sixth, I think, in the draft. I know you don't want to reward that behavior, but like, it's going to happen anyway. Like,
the thing is, how are these franchises supposed to turn things around?
Right.
Like, that's the thing in the NFL. It's like, you're really bad. You pick a marquee player, the quarterback even, that helps you turn it around. Like, granted, if you're bad enough and you hit on these top 10 picks, like, look at the Rockets, for example. They haven't had a number one pick, right? But they've hit on, most of these guys. So they've been able to build their core up through that way, but a lot of these franchises are bad for a reason, like Charlotte and Washington. It's like they don't draft well because they're not well-run franchises. So it's like, how do you dig yourself out of the hole you're in without, getting that top pick? And I understand it from the way to de-incentivize tanking, but I just don't know what you do if you're one of these really bottom feeder organizations.
That's the thing. You're fucking over the teams that are just actually bad. Like, they're not not maybe trying to tank. They're just bad. They just don't have talent. And how do you get them talent?
See, that's the thing, is you're rewarding mediocrity. Like, if you're a team like the Chicago Bulls are the epitome of this for me, where it's like, they are not a good team. They are not going anywhere. Yet they always play well enough to creep in or get close to the play-in. You do not deserve the first pick if you're contending for a playoff spot. And especially when you shouldn't be. You should be trading everybody and tanking. Like, that's how you rebuild an organization. And it's like, you're rewarding these teams for being mediocre. Like, the Spurs were pretty bad for a few years, but they weren't even a highly, like, one of the top teams for Wemby, weren't they? I don't think they were like a top 3 team for him.
I'm not sure if they were. I know it felt like Wemby was going to end up on the Spurs just because of that. He's going to be the international guy. He's going to play for Pop. It just felt like a good fit to get the Spurs back to where they want to be. Shout out Pop, by the way, taking his new role as El Jefe with the Spurs rather than coaching. I don't think we haven't mentioned that on the pod. That's sad that we won't get like any sort of retirement.
Did we lose Bran? Can we still keep going if it's Bran without Bran? Can you guys hear me? If you guys can hear me, drop in chat if you can hear me. I don't know if this relies on Bran to keep going.
How's the Pat show? How's the Pat show going?
Well, I just wanted to make sure they could hear me because I didn't know if we would go off the air.
No, I think you stay on if I go.
I do.
Yeah, my internet's not happy with me. I don't understand.
I didn't have the chance to really riff at all because I just wanted to make sure that we can hear me. Pat only show. Yeah, Pat show. Yeah, chat. Pat show in the chat.
I started talking about Popovich. I started talking about Popovich. You got kicked out. I don't know what I did wrong.
They heard you talking about El Jefe, and they were just like, no.
Yeah, like that's.
But and then you look at like the Hawks. The Hawks are another team. I feel. They've been a little better than the Bulls, but like another team that just strives for mediocrity on a consistent basis, where it's like either go all in and compete or fucking suck. But yet, granted, they got Zachary Risachet, who is, looked good at the end of the year, but is not going to be one of these franchise-altering first overall picks like we've seen with Wemby and Flagg and a couple other guys in recent years.
Yeah, it's an imperfect system. I don't know the way to solve it. So yes, I am offering up a problem without offering up a solution. But I think that's kind of just where we're at because we're in a time where teams and just everyone involved are aware of what the optimal way is to rebuild a team, and it's to, be bad to get a higher pick, but you can't directly reward that because it makes teams tank too, obviously, but they're kind of just doing it anyway, even with the system, because they're like, well, if we're not going to be good, we might as well be as bad as possible to give ourselves the best percentage chance. But then the NBA is like, hey, we're actually just going to give these teams with single-digit percentage. Honestly, Pat, I feel like the only way to really disincentivize tanking, and this is another way that it just wouldn't let the bad teams get talent. Just fucking randomize every team that didn't make the playoffs. Just randomize all of them. It feels like that's what you're doing anyway. And then maybe you're not tanking because you're like, well, why are we going to tank if we might just end up with the 14th overall pick? We'll at least try to, slowly get better. But I don't know. I just don't think there is a clear answer. I challenge Adam Silver to figure it out in between, rigging trades for the Lakers' benefit. Moving back to football, Pat. news that came out today, Trey Hendrickson announced that he will not play next year without a new deal for the Cincinnati Bengals. Every year we seem to have some kind of contract dispute that we're monitoring. This one has taken a little bit less of center stage, quite frankly, I think because he plays defense, and we are just as a country a little more interested in the guys that are able to put up the points on the offensive side of the ball. The contract disputes of guys like, Bran and Ayuk over the years, Deebo Samuel, Le'Veon Bell. But this one's been going on the entire time. Trey Hendrickson is set to make $16 million per year. He says the situation became more personal when Zach Taylor texted him recently saying that he would be fined if he didn't report to the team's mandatory minicamp 4 weeks from now, which indicates a deal would not be done over the next month. So that is pretty ham-fisted protocol from Zach Taylor. And I understand Hendrickson's frustration. Again, this is the sack leader from a season ago, and he just watched Myles Garrett get $40 million a year from the Cleveland Browns. Not to say that Trey Hendrickson should be getting anywhere near that amount. Myles Garrett's one of the absolute best and long-standing proven defensive players in the NFL, but I understand him wanting more than $16 million. He also has said the Bengals just haven't been communicating with him. They basically ghosted him, even though I think the Bengals tried to come out and say recently that no, they have been. Trey's like, no, you fucking haven't. So two sides going at each other. Hendrickson has said that despite these issues and this kind of poor handling of the situation, that the relationship can be repaired, again pointing to the Garrett situation where Myles flat out requested a trade and then ended up coming to a deal with the Browns. I mean, I would too for $40 million a year, but that it's just in a bad spot right now, the relationship with him and the Bengals. So we'll see where this ends up, Pat. I assume it's going to get resolved, but who knows?
And we've talked about it time and time again. The Bengals need to resolve this because that defense is, going to be fighting for their lives every week and just hoping the offense can drop 50. You lose not only the best defender on your team, but one of the best defenders in the whole league. Like, again, yeah, we don't hear about this as much because he's not quite Myles Garrett. We're talking Myles Garrett. But he's been damn good, especially on a defense that has not been very good. He's only 30, so, you at least think he's going to have, a handful of years left of solid production.
He's not a running back, so he's not halfway in the grave.
Oh, yeah, Bran doesn't hate him yet. But
I would if he was a running back.
But yeah, it's... They need to figure something out.
Yeah, I'm past the point of ever thinking that these things are actually going to materialize, because, again, we've just seen it so many times now with... Again, Brandon Ayuk, Myles Garrett, even Lamar Jackson, where things can get really ugly between a player and the franchise, and then it just kind of ends up getting done. It remains to be seen or answered why they are doing it this way and seemingly being kind of shitty about it. But nature of the business, I guess. It's not the first time we've seen something like this. All right. On to the big deal that happened again about a day after our last show, so we haven't talked about it yet. George Pickens is a Dallas Cowboy. This is a move that it was not surprising given the Cowboys' current standing of their depth chart, or I should say previous standing of their depth chart. We were surprised that they didn't really draft any receivers of note in the NFL draft. Turns out it was because they probably had this deal in their back pocket the entire time. So they are going to bring George Pickens to Dallas. Certainly makes them a better team now that they don't have to have just Jalen Tolbert and Kevontae Turpin as supporting wide receivers around CeeDee Lamb. They get somebody who is quite a bit higher caliber, even if he is, maybe a deep ball merchant, if you want to put it that way. Looking at this from a fantasy perspective, Pat, I think Pickens' stock is absolutely up. Dak Prescott is going to be the best quarterback that he has ever played with by a good amount. I think Dak's stock is up. Dak has been a periodically relevant fantasy quarterback basically any season that he's not hurt. In fact, he has towed the line of being an elite fantasy quarterback anytime that he's not hurt. And now that he's got not just CeeDee Lamb, but also a potential touchdown machine, jump ball contested catching machine like George Pickens, I think this is great news for Dak and really spices up the old fantasy world here.
Yeah, I think it's good for everybody involved in Dallas, at least, because even you look at it from CeeDee Lamb's perspective, when, especially when Dak went down and we had Joe Schmo and Cooper Rush playing quarterback, they had to really rely on Lamb. And granted, the fact that he didn't have his best year last year, but he's still damn good. He is still damn good. And to have a little bit of that attention, knowing that there is another viable wide receiver on this team to draw some attention away from him, And I think it's good for George Pickens because I think, honestly, this is what the role he's kind of meant to be in an offense. Like, the talent is there, but I think he's more meant to be a big play guy rather than someone you're going to run your offense through. Like, I think he's a great second in command for a great wide receiver like CeeDee Lamb in what should be a good offense, again, with a healthy Dak as well. So, yeah, I think this is great for just about every. And again, like it affects Jalen Tolbert. It was nothing was going to affect Jalen Tolbert.
It didn't matter, yeah.
Like it just maybe Jake Ferguson loses a little bit of gusto, my boy,
right? My
boy Jake Ferguson. Right. But yeah, no, I think this is, like one of those obvious moves that you didn't see coming from the Cowboys' perspective because we just thought they were incompetent. But good job, Jerry. Even though it wasn't him, it was most likely Steven.
They're still probably incompetent, but this is, broken clocks right
sure.
Twice a day. I think undeniably a better position for Pickens to be in, even though he goes from being a team's wide receiver 1 to their wide receiver 2, just feels like a situation that probably fits him and his skill set better, not only because it's a better quarterback and just a better offense overall, but, looking at Pickens and what he's done in the NFL so far, I think he's probably better built to be a wide receiver 2, rather than a guy that a team's offense needs to lean on and be that true alpha number 1. I do think I saw a report that said like Pickens, isn't expecting to be their wide receiver 2 or something like that. He's like, I'm going there to be, the top guy, or not actively seed the number 1 spot, but I'm like, that you're going to seed it to CD, my boy. Like, you are the number 2. Do not get it twisted. But good move for the Cowboys.
He's nuts. Got him.
He sure is. Looking at the Steelers fallout, this team goes from being gross to even grosser, Pat. Smallest violin, always on deck. It goes from being gross to even grosser. DK, I think, at least the fantasy outlook for him becomes a little clearer, because before it was like, all right, he's going to be splitting targets to some degree with a guy who is just kind of a diet version of him anyway on a bad offense. Now, it's still a bad offense. It still has bad quarterbacks, but at least you can look at this depth chart and think, all right, if they're going to do anything, it's probably going to be through DK Metcalf. A little bit of Pat Freiermuth, not to disrespect him, but the only other guys on this depth chart are Calvin Austin and Robert Woods.
Roman Wilson.
Roman Wilson. I mean, yeah, I will give Roman Wilson some credit. I am interested to see what he can maybe do in year 2. He could be maybe the sleeper out of this situation, but it's I don't see myself investing in many Steelers for redraft purposes, Pat. It's just kind of an icky situation. How do you feel about it?
Yeah, last thought, I forgot who said it. I think it was Fantasy Flock who said it. Like, just because a guy is the clear cut in a bad offense, that doesn't mean like you need to prioritize him. Like, you should rather have the number 2 option in a really good offense rather than the clear-cut number 1 in a mediocre offense. That was kind of the talk with Deontay Johnson in Carolina last year, going into the year. So, like, I'd much rather have, like, T. Higgins or both of the second in command for the Rams. Just because Metcalf is the top dog there doesn't mean he should be getting drafted the same way he was last year. I mean, he's still a number 1 wide receiver, and that means something, especially since the guy is talented. But this team is going to stink. Well, in theory, they're going to stink. They'll probably win a bunch of games like 19-17. They're going to run the ball a ton with Arthur Smith at the helm. You know that. And if whether Mason Rudolph or, again, if Aaron Rodgers is a quarterback, we can talk about this team in a bit more of a positive light. But right now, there's no, all bets are off on that. Like, you can't bank on that right now if you're us or the Steelers or whoever. So you're looking at Mason Rudolph, and I don't care that it's DK Metcalf and he has such little competition. Again, you're still looking at a guy who should be drafted probably as I'd say like again, I always say this shit and I'm spitballing. Like, I have not written this down, but you got to think he's at least like a fringe wide receiver 2. I don't know let's see what our friends at everywhere has him.
Friends everywhere. To me, my headcanon value of him is like, I wouldn't want him as more than a flex, but his name value could possibly bump him up a bit higher than that. I'm unsure.
So yeah, he's 26 on Fantasy Pros, which would make him a low-end wide receiver 2, high-end flex.
Definition of fringe wide receiver 2.
Exactly.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Man, I am good. I am into.
You're the fucking best. I should give you a raise.
I should write stuff down too. Like, if I actually made rankings, I could actually talk about this instead of just talking out of my ass and having to be correct on a guess.
True.
It's not like I don't have the. It's not like I don't have the time either. Like, what the fuck am I doing?
You can just tattoo it on your ass and then use a mirror to look at it. I think that's the best way to do it. And you're really talking out of your ass. No, I think you make a good point about wide receiver one in a bad offense. Like, you look at it and it always sounds better than what it actually turns out being. If you think about what those kind of guys were last year, I mean, George Pickens, for example, in this exact role, had good weeks, had really bad weeks, just a generally frustrating player to own. The Titans with Calvin Ridley, similar situation there. Had good weeks, frustrating player to own. And that's kind of been DK's MO even on good offenses. Like, pretty good, but also pretty frustrating to own. Little more consistent in the Russell Wilson days, but overall not the kind of guy that you feel like you should be getting when you're drafting DK Metcalf.
Well, that's the thing, is we've seen him be so good, both real life and fantasy wise, that like the expectations are for good reason high. I mean, we were both really high on him going into last year.
Drafted him last year, and he was mostly disappointed.
Yeah,
he was all right.
He wasn't bad, but no. He did not recoup the value that you drafted him with. He didn't no return on investment. And yeah, I just think that he's not somebody that I'm going to actively be out there, especially Mr. Zero RB, who apparently takes wide receivers in the first 4 rounds I'm not taking DK Metcalf.
No, I don't think I will be taking any DK Metcalf either unless he falls to some egregiously low round. All right. The other big move of the week, Pat. Derek Carr has called it a career. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to do that.
Oh, brother, this guy stinks.
Looks like the Derek Carr is out of gas. No, Derek Carr is calling it a career. I tweeted that. So
I saw you tweet that.
Yeah. He was facing
the movie draft.
I mean, The Benchwarmers is the best movie of all time. He was facing a shoulder injury he was going to need surgery for. It was going to knock him out all of next year. So he said, look, instead of sitting out all of next year, I'm going to sit out all of forever, which, respect to him, he has had a good enough career at this point to where this isn't overly surprising. I'm sure the Saints are, or at least their financials, their bookkeepers are happy because Carr was making a large chunk of change for not being all that good on the field. With that said, even with Derek Carr calling it a career, Pat, this does not leave the Saints quarterback room in necessarily a better spot just because they got rid of an underperforming, highly paid guy. When you look at who is there, it's a little icky. It's not great.
We're in the same spot because I think most people anticipate. I didn't anticipate him retiring. I thought he was going to have surgery and be out for the year. But I think most people anticipated when they took Tyler Shuck that he was going to be the guy. Yeah. So it basically just brings clarity. It doesn't change the situation. Now we just know, like, okay, this is what we are dealing with, and holy fuck, is this going to be bad?
It's rough. We're looking at a 3-man quarterback competition right now between Tyler Shuck, Spencer Rattler, and Jake Haener.
Taysom Hill.
Good. Taysom Hill's hurt too. Good Lord, that is fucking bad. I do think Tyler Shuck is probably going to end up being the guy there, but either way, for real life purposes, Pat, the Saints might be the worst team in football next year. They really might. That is well
at least
within.
Going into it, I think they're the safe bet at the moment, but they could surprise us. But man, I love Derek Carr. Like that man had to play for the Raiders and the Saints in his career. God bless that man. Like, he is unironically one of the best quarterbacks in Raiders history. Like, he leads them in passing yards and touchdowns.
Statistically, I don't think it's close.
Well, statistically is, but, it's hard to compare him to the likes of, like, Ken Stabler, a completely different football. But he is unironically one of the best players that franchise has had. And at his peak, he was really underrated. Like, he had that one year where he was in MVP talks, and rightfully so, before he got hurt. But the guy
kids
put
out
together...
there don't know Derek Carr MVP talks were a thing.
It's just so crazy to me, just in terms of being old, that Derek Carr is now retired. Like, like in terms of the fact that, like, we just already watched his entire career. It's just like, holy shit, I am dust. But salute to you, Derek. Good luck with the shoulder. Good luck with everything. Hopefully you're a better TV pundit than your brother.
It's a pretty low bar. As far as the quarterbacks go, Pat, again, the Saints, I think, are going to be one of the worst teams in football, but looking at it from a fantasy perspective, whoever starts at quarterback for the Saints could have some fantasy relevance just due to the fact that they have Kellen Moore there now, and the offensive weapons around the quarterback are pretty good if they could just stay on the goddamn
If they're
field.
out there.
Right.
Yeah.
They need to be out
Big
there.
if.
But if you look at it, again, this is not to say nobody out there that is going to need to draft a Saints quarterback. I'm just saying don't be utterly shocked if a Saints quarterback ends up being a hot waiver commodity at some point, just because, you're going to have an offense that has weapons on it, is going to be playing in garbage time a lot, and maybe Tyler Shuck is that guy, man. Maybe he adjusts to the NFL quickly, and maybe he ends up being a productive player. So looking at it from the quarterbacks, like one of these guys could end up relevant. Looking at the weapons themselves, Pat, I think you have to assume, general stock down for these guys, just because Derek Carr was at least a pretty willing passer. He was a guy you kind of knew what you were getting. Now you just have a complete mystery box of quarterbacks where I guess it's better to put it this way. The floor of these guys is a lot lower than what Derek Carr's was. You knew Derek Carr was at least going to put out a halfway passable offense. There's a chance none of these guys are cut out for the NFL. So you have to account for that in your range of outcomes when looking at the Saints' weapons. Rashid Shaheed being kind of the main one. Obviously, he's coming back from an injury of his own, but Rashid Shaheed, his entire breakout was with Derek Carr as his quarterback. And then he went down for injury and didn't, really play with the other guys. But Rashid Shaheed, you definitely have to assume his stock is down. I'll say this, Pat, Chris Olave's stock may not be down, because it seemed like he and Derek Carr were like oil and water. Those two
they
could never get on the same page. And so this is a matter of like, anything new might be better for Chris Olave. You just have Chris Olave's best game yardage wise last year came with Spencer Rattler. He and Derek Carr were just never really quite on the same page. That's not to say I'm going to be running to get Chris Olave, because I think he's going to have some kind of career year with Tyler Shuck out there, but I think it does make him a slightly more attractive speculative pick, knowing that he doesn't have a quarterback that he actively has no chemistry with. So Chris Olave maybe is back on the menu, boys. We'll have to see what his price ends up being come draft day. But yes, Derek Carr calling it a career after a couple seasons with the New Orleans Saints. The NFL schedule release, Pat, is going to be fully out tomorrow, May 14th, which, by the way, for those of you watching this, I will be live reacting to all of the NFL schedule release videos, because it is like the social media Super Bowl with these teams dropping their schedule releases in creative ways. Some of them put in a lot of effort. Some of them put in no effort. It's always funny to see which teams fall into which category, but generally there's at least some level of creativity in
Chargers
there.
goated.
Chargers are goated. So we'll see how that looks tomorrow. But tomorrow, Wednesday, May 14th, if you're listening to this on a different day. But there are some games that have come out already in advance of that full schedule release. So we do know that the first game of the NFL season on Thursday Night Football will be, that's my poor attempt at a drum roll on my desk, Cowboys at
I got a bunch of
Eagles.
Drums,
God, that'd be deafening. Cowboys at Eagles. Little bit gross, not the worst it could be. I only say a little bit gross because the past 3 seasons we've gotten the defending Super Bowl champions, which the Eagles are this year, but they've faced typically just another really cool fellow Super Bowl contender. Like last year we had Chiefs versus Ravens. The year before it was Chiefs versus Lions. The year before that it was Bills versus Rams. So really fun matchups between Super Bowl contending teams. Cowboys, this feels like the NFL being like, all right, we threw you a bone the last 3 years with just fun matchups with, maybe not the most marketable teams out there. Now we're getting our lick back. We're putting the Cowboys, we're doing the division rivalry thing. You all can suck it. And this is probably going to be the highest rated opener of the last few years, because that's just how it fucking goes when you put the Cowboys on TV. But little bummed that we're not getting a more, just a better team than the Cowboys. The Cowboys, if they're fully healthy, Pat, they might be okay this year, but their win total right now is projected to be the same as the Patriots and the Panthers. I think we're all projected at 7.5 games to win this year. So kind of icky, but that is what we're dealing with on the first game of the season. Could be worse, certainly could be better. International games, we've got the most countries ever visited by the NFL in one season, with 5 different countries that there will be NFL football in this year. The previous high was 3. That is because this season we will have our first ever games in Ireland and Spain, on top of the normal games in London, Berlin, Germany, and where's the other one they normally go to?
Mexico?
Oh, Brazil. Brazil. We're going back to Brazil for the second time. And here are those games. Week 1, there will be, we don't know. This is the only one that we don't know who the team is. But it's somebody versus the Chargers in Brazil. That'll be happening week 1. Week 4, we've got Steelers versus Vikings in Ireland. Week 5, we've got Vikings versus Browns in London. So the Vikings are pulling a little international back-to-back, minimizing their jet lag, even though they are going from one place to another. It's certainly going to be better than a team going from the United States over to London, which is what the Browns will be doing for the Vikings' second international game. I imagine the Vikings are going to smack the ever-loving shit out of them for a few reasons, that being the jet lag and the fact that it's the Browns. So that game might be a murder. Week 6, Broncos versus Jets in London. Week 7, Rams versus Jags in London. Of course, we got to put the Jags in London. It's a rite of passage. Week 10, Falcons versus Colts in Berlin. Week 11, Dolphins versus Commanders in Madrid. So a wide range of international games this year. We are continuing to grow the game, Pat.
And what was this I saw? What game is it that's just going to be streamed for free on YouTube? In YouTube TV. I forget which one it was.
I don't know that the teams were announced yet. Maybe they were, and I'm tweaking out because I had some commentary on it because I was curious if YouTubers could like stream it like to their audience, because I don't see why they couldn't if it's already on the platform. Oh, that's the Brazil game. That is the Chargers versus somebody.
Yeah, because it was
game.
Peacock last year. I remember that opening Friday night game, and nobody watched. Well, I didn't watch it, but
as Schefter put it, YouTube will exclusively stream the Friday night week 1 game of the 2025 season in Sao Paulo, Brazil, on September 5th to a worldwide audience on YouTube and YouTube TV. So YouTube, get on that. Let me do a little live stream watch along. It'll be good for the brand, good for the program, if you ask me.
Rare NFL dub, I will say.
Yeah,
so long as it all goes well.
Absolutely. Having a free game that's actually easily accessible versus fucking Peacock, it's absolutely a major dub. A couple other games that have been announced already in advance of tomorrow. We've got the Broncos at the Chiefs on Christmas Day. I don't know about you, Pat. That sounds like a pretty banger game to me. I really like the Broncos this year. I think they can be a very, very good team. No. But that game's happening on Christmas. That should be a fun one. And then the Bears at the Eagles on Black Friday, the day after Christmas. Is that the day
Thanksgiving.
after Christmas? Sorry, not the day after. Yes, thank you. Day after Thanksgiving. Sorry.
Shut 'em off.
I don't remember what Black Friday is. I don't go out for that. Black Friday is such a sham nowadays anyway. It used to be fun when you would go out to the stores like right when they open, but now they just do deals like leading up to it, and they're not even any better than what you can get online. It's like, well, I'm not leaving my house for this shit anymore. I don't know when it is.
But Nichols Outside has performed at Blackstone Irish Pub in Southington 3 straight years, and I don't think we're gonna because we're dead, but maybe we will. Ian, if you're listening, bitch ass.
When is Black Friday? Friday, November 28th, 2025. So that's when you will be blessed with Caleb Williams and Ben Johnson against Jalen Hurts and Will Shipley. So, yeah, just keep that in mind. These are the games we've got so far. Rest of the schedule will be announced soon. All right, Pat. I think we've wasted enough time here.
We've got an hour. We're getting to 100.
I think we've wasted enough time here. It's time to beat this fucking gorilla. Because first of all, let's just start here, Pat, because we're definitely overdue on talking about this subject. Where do you stand on the general debate of 100 men versus a gorilla?
There is so little chance that the 100 men would defeat. Like, I don't
You're
think people
out of your
realize.
mind. You're out of
Do
your
you
mind.
realize how big a gorilla is?
They're not
Okay,
that
no
big.
weapons.
They're not that big. They're like 500 pounds. Do you know how many 100 people is? That's a lot of people.
Yeah,
That's
but the
20,000
gorilla's just
pounds
gonna
of
take a
weight.
guy and start swinging at everybody with him.
That's fine. You duck him, and then you go for his legs, and you knock him over. There's 100 dudes. That's a
Even
lot
if
of
you
dudes.
knock him over, what are you gonna do to kill the gorilla? Like,
Gouge his
unless it's
fucking eyes out
Harambe.
and punch him in the face. He's not made of steel. You're clubbing the fucking gorilla. 100 dudes is a lot of dudes. Here's
Whoops.
Here is what I've asked people who have opposed the idea of 100 men beating a gorilla. How many men would it take then to beat a gorilla? Because it's not infinite. A gorilla's not beating 1,000,000 men. It's not happening. So what's your number then if it's not 100? Because 100's a lot. Welcome to the
I
off-season,
don't know.
folks.
That's a good point, but I like. What gorilla are we talking here? Are we talking about Patrick in a gorilla suit? Patrick, I thought you were in the gorilla suit. I am in the gorilla suit.
All right, let's get into the draft, Pat. I think I have the first pick here.
You do. Now, here's the thing.
Most useless draft to have the first pick because we're not.
I don't know
fighting
how
for one
seriously you went with this because I am incredibly unserious about this. Like, I'm not just gonna put a bunch of like dorks in there to, but like, just the reasonings why I'm picking these people are just so fucking stupid.
Oh no, I completely understand that. I'll kick us off then with my first pick. I'm not taking it overly seriously either. This is more about specific guys that can maybe do specific things to the gorilla. And then there's just some overall strong fucking scary dudes in general.
Okay, yeah. See, mine. I'll have the gag characters of the group.
Perfect.
Okay.
With the first overall pick in the athletes to defeat the gorilla draft, I'm selecting Draymond Green. I think when you need somebody to attack a gorilla, first of all, you need somebody who's kind of a fucking dick. He's probably not all there. He's a piece of shit, and more importantly than all of that, he is unafraid to target the balls, Pat. I've seen Draymond kick people in the balls. If he can find the gorilla's balls, Pat, we are in fucking business. That gorilla is getting horizontal, and then we are dogpiling that motherfucker with 20,000 plus pounds of humanity, ripping its eyes out and ending it faster than you could say, Draymond, stop kicking that gorilla in the balls. So I'm taking Draymond Green at the 101.
Okay. For this kind of type, you need somebody who is fearless. Somebody who has seen a lot of things. Someone who has stared death in the face. Damar Hamlin, welcome to the squad. That man literally died and came back. He has no fear. He is going right after that gorilla like it's a fourth down conversion.
Do we get Damar Hamlin or do we get his clone?
Both.
Okay, great. Fucking hell. All right, I really wasn't sure what you meant when you said you're picking gag characters. I was like, we'll see where that goes.
I've got two really more good gag characters left that I'm going to have to actually think.
I've got one in here.
I've got three more, never mind.
That's definitely not a physical threat. But he's in here anyway. So yeah, I am taking this a bit more seriously than you, but that's all right. Jesus Christ. All right. With the second pick my second pick in the athletes to fight the gorilla draft, I'm going to take Desmond Watson, Pat. And if you're unfamiliar with Desmond Watson, he is the undrafted free agent signed by the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, who weighed in at 464 pounds at Florida's Pro Day.
He a big boy.
So he a big boy. And Pat, if you look up roughly average gorilla weight, they tend to be around 500, 600 pounds. I think the intimidation factor of the gorilla seeing a man that is almost the same size as he is will be a major blow to the gorilla's psyche right off the bat. He's going to be like, where'd you find that one? You're not supposed to have ones built like that. What the fuck? So I'm taking Desmond Watson for not only the fear factor, but also like, I think if he squares up with him, Pat, we could maybe just take this guy down one-on-one. Desmond Watson might just be able to do this himself. Get him in a little headlock, use his beef to his advantage, and just end this thing early. So I'm going with Desmond Watson.
So I think one thing we can all agree on is that like the first person that goes after the gorilla is not beating the gorilla. So you need to have someone in there that you're okay with sacrificing. That is why Deshaun Watson is going to join us in the fight against the gorilla on the lone condition that he goes first.
Is this court appointed or is this? I feel like that's the appropriate punishment for his sins. Yeah, I mean, you're really loading it up with
my next pick is going to be even more ridiculous.
I'm concerned by the fact that every player we've drafted so far, his first name starts with D. That seems like an odd coincidence.
My next guy's not a D guy. Okay, neither of my next two are big D guys.
Okay, I mean, you're a big D guy, so I'm surprised you didn't draft more of your own kind. Okay. Oh, third pick here. Don't motion that your penis is less than an inch long. Pat, I had a similar method of thinking to you with the sacrificial first person, but not only that they are sacrificial, but that you need somebody to kick off the fight who is willing and also not all there in the brain. Draymond's not the guy I necessarily want going in first, although I do think he will be equally fearless because he's kind of a fucking idiot. But we need someone who's really not all there. And that's Antonio Brown, Pat. CT ESPN will be covering the gorilla fight. This man is going dick first, running straight at this gorilla. And if the gorilla wants to swing him around and launch him 700 yards west, that's totally fine and probably better for humanity. But at the very least, we are going to kick things off without fear in our heart because Antonio Brown, I don't think, has felt any emotion or thought other than chaos for the last 6 to 7 years. So we are drafting Antonio Brown.
It's interesting because this kind of does coincide. Oh, I got to clear my throat. This kind of coincides with my player just because of the name. When you're fighting a gorilla, man, you need stamina. You need endurance. You need to be able to go round after round after round. And who better to go round after round after round than Antonio Cromartie, the man who has literally defeated vasectomies on a regular basis. That man is the epitome of stamina. That man will be there. Even if the gorilla wins, Antonio Cromartie is going to be one of the last men standing. Just fucking him. That's what he's doing. He's just fucking. He's just fucking.
Oh, no. This is taking a turn. Okay, so yeah, we've got double Antonios now after 4 straight guys whose names.
And that wasn't even my funniest pick. That just popped into my head just now.
Oh, God. All right. Man, I am unsure. I'm looking at my draft pool and also thinking about just possible other options that are out there. I think I'm going to go, and look, this could create some team chemistry issues. We might have to separate these guys. But talking about a guy who is fearless, plays dirty, doesn't care what anyone else thinks, but he does have a bit of a personal issue with someone else on my team. I'm going to take Vontaze Burfict. I think he's the kind of guy that he's just going to get the job done, Pat. He's going to go. I feel like he has a keen knowledge of weak spots on the body that he can just target, whether that is the head and just going straight for it and giving the gorilla CTE, or if it's, just stomping him at the fucking kneecap to take him out at his lower extremities. I feel like this is a guy who's kind of mastered the art of playing dirty. And I think that's something this team could use. Now, we need to make sure that he and AB don't take each other out.
They just start fighting each other.
Before the fight even starts. That could be where this goes a bit south. But I am going to go with Vontaze Burfict.
It's like the meme where it's like Dak Prescott checked down to CeeDee Lamb, George Pickens 30 yards down the field.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. Every good army needs a commander. A commander who is fearless and invokes some of the greatest fighters, according to him.
Oh, my God.
Sean McDermott is going to be our general, as he is going to invoke Al-Qaeda the entire time, as he often does. He's got that dog in him. You need that dog in you to lead your troops to fight this gorilla.
That is not what I was expecting. I actually thought you were going to go a different direction there with someone that I have on my board. So
is it a coach?
It is a coach. It is a coach. And it's someone who I am going to take here because now you've inspired me to do it.
Is it Dan Campbell?
Nope. No, it's not Dan. It's not Dan Campbell. It is someone who, again, and this is why I thought you were going to take who I have on here. Similar traits in the sense that he inspires his men to have no fear. One of the very best coaches in the world, and also has experience taking down a very large, oversized threat when it matters most. And that is Connecticut Huskies coach Dan Hurley, who conquered the essential human gorilla that is Zach Edey That man was
God damn
fucking
it.
ungodly large, and Dan Hurley was able to game plan, motivate his guys, and make sure that he was no longer a threat. He took him out of the game entirely. Imagine what he could motivate a group of individuals of varying mental stability to do, but also are super athletic against this gorilla. Dan Hurley is simply going to stand in the back, not get physical, but he is going to make sure these motherfuckers, all 99 of them, I mean, in this case 4, but all 99 of them are ready.
Also, we're doing great on time. We're not stopping here. We're not stopping at 5. We're not getting to 100, but we're not. Maybe go 10 each. I think 10 each is good.
Fine. I don't have enough of a player pool to go that far. But
Are you kidding me? I could go on and on and on and on.
You know what? Fine. I'm in. Let's go. Keep going.
All right, we've committed to 10. Okay, so if that is the case here, I will go with this guy. You need somebody who is just crazy. Someone who is just going to be completely out of their mind, have no idea where they are. I need the crackhead Lamar Odom to go in here. He had to fight off the Kardashians anyway, who, that man has seen hell. That man has seen war. And he's going to be on crack when he goes in there. Okay?
Choosing someone that abuses substances is certainly a choice, and I mean Antonio Brown's definitely on stuff. It's just less documented.
I could have also picked Dion Waiters if for the same reason. Then if he would just go in there way off and edible.
I think that's fair. All right, I'm gonna go off my board here and start going off the noggin, at least for this pick. Pat, one trait that would really help against this gorilla is being able to get in some quick strikes, but not take any damage yourself. Some would even say that it would help to be able to just hit and run. I'm going to take Rashee Rice with my next pick. The hit and run specialist. He's elusive. He is violent. More importantly, he has no remorse. He will walk away from a disastrous scene with just no guilt on his mind. I will take Rashee Rice for his hit and run prowess.
I've got a friend of Rashee Rice here now, Jeff, is my 6th pick.
Oh, no.
You need to be strong against a gorilla. You need to be an alpha male. And I know no bigger alpha male than Harrison Butker to go in there and lead the way against this gorilla.
It better not be a female gorilla. He's just going to ask it why it's not in the kitchen. You don't get to holy fuck me after drafting Harrison Butker. Yeah, we got multiple Kansas.
I drafted Sean McDermott.
Got multiple Chiefs on this team now. All right, we're on my 7th pick now. Fuck. I'll draft one of the guys who was on my board. I think maybe one of the more in tune with nature sort of players in his respective sport, and also is just a massive human being who feels very cut out for this kind of event. I'm going with Steven Adams. I feel like Steven Adams is a guy you really want on your team for this. He is just a big. Where's he from? He's like New Zealand, I think, right? Yeah, big New Zealandish, large man who I've seen literally pick up another NBA player to remove him from a confrontation before. I think he could just suplex this gorilla and we could call it a day there. So I'm going with Steven Adams.
Now, speaking of which, I was thinking of the athlete that has probably gotten to the closest size of a gorilla before. You may be thinking Vince Wilfork. You are wrong. I want Golden Corral Eddie Lacy in there.
Fuck Eddie Lacy, man. I fucking hate that guy still. I'm so mad at him.
Right off the buffet. Get him in there.
Eddie Lacy notably loves China food. If you were to search up Twitter archives, he is always saying he wants to go get China food. So that is what he is offering us. Oh, Jesus.
This is getting out of hand. I mean, it was out of hand when I took Damar Hamlin.
Yeah, you really kicked us off on an interesting note. God, I don't even know where else to go with this. I'm just trying to think of either criminals or just fucking bad people. You know what? I'm just going to go the size route again and get a guy who is and this will also help mentor one of my earlier picks, just like he's going to do in real life. He's going to mentor Desmond Watson, and that's Vita Vea. I'll take the big boy.
Another big boy.
We are just getting as much mass as possible so that we can, again, just somebody's got to immobilize this gorilla, and then we are just dogpiling him. And if we get enough dudes who are like 400 plus pounds themselves, I mean, this dude, you say, how are we going to damage him? Sheer weight. Like, that's like you laying down and just putting a house on top of you. Like, you're fucking dead whether you like it or not. So we're going Vita Vea.
A word? Okay. Okay.
Tell me with a good time.
You need somebody. All these guys have one thing in common, is that they have never killed somebody. You need a killer. In here.
No.
And I don't believe this is going to be the killer that any of you at home are thinking. And I don't think many of you have even heard of him. You're not allowed to use weapons. But you're not telling me that Tony Stewart is going to run out there and run this gorilla over?
God, look, the NASCAR...
If he doesn't get a car, he's going to be one of the first dead guys. He's a fat slob. Like, he's not going to be doing shit. But if he breaks the rules and brings out his car, the gorilla needs to not be high on marijuana and be standing in the middle of the track, or else he's a goner.
I should have expected some sort of NASCAR pick from our NASCAR guy.
I was going to go Dale Earnhardt because he's the Intimidator, but he is in fact dead and was defeated by a concrete wall. So I don't think he would have done well against the gorilla, unfortunately. Raise hell orderly, praise Dale quarterly.
Okay, I've never heard that before, and I don't particularly like it.
I would have got 2 picks left each, I think.
Yeah, 2 picks left. All right, I'm gonna go into a realm of my own, since you've dipped into the NASCAR realm, and that is the pro wrestling realm. It's going to be a guy you've very much heard of, and there is some, I think, solid reasoning behind this that I've just come up with right now. Pat, there's a wrestler out there that many people have joked is basically begging to die in the ring. He's pretended to retire a few different times. He just refuses to actually stick to it. He's also kind of a bad guy, so if he were to go in this situation, I don't think the world would be a whole lot worse off for it. I'm going to take the other dirtiest player in the game, and that is Ric Flair. This man is about 90 years old, piece of shit. Pat, he wrestled like 2 years ago. It wasn't pretty. It looked like he was going to stroke out in the ring. But I'm going to give him his wish, because if he is one of the earlier men to get in that sparring arena with the gorilla, he is toast. But I think that's kind of how he wants to go at the end of the day. So we'll go Ric Flair.
Okay. I think I'm going to dig really, really deep here. I think he might have played for one of your favorite teams. Let me check. He did. Oh, for a handful of years, actually. I need a man who just goes full psychotic and doesn't remember what happens. I don't know if you kids remember Ronaldo Bachman, the basketball player who choked out his coach in the Philippines and tried to attack several other coaches, players, and refs, and apparently did not have much recollection of it.
I never knew about this.
We need a guy who's going to forget. The gorilla hits him, he forgets. He's back out there.
The shortest memory possible. Yeah, I don't hate that. I didn't know that Ronaldo Balkman did that. I just knew he was incredibly mediocre basketball player. He was pretty fucking bad. All right, well,
I haven't picked a baseball player yet. I don't think there's really a good idea for baseball here.
No, baseball's tough because
a lot of guys on roids. A lot of guys on
roids, but they all use weapons in their sport. Like, they always have bats and balls, and we're not doing weapons here, so it's hard to yes, I would love to have Aroldis Chapman, who just is a piece of shit and can throw 107 miles an hour and throw a baseball right at the gorilla's face. That'd be wonderful, but that doesn't seem to be in the spirit of the no weapons situation here. So, God, who do I finish with? I've got a few guys also on my draft board I could go with, or I could go off the board.
Oh, I've got another great pick here.
Thinking basketball, thinking football. Let's see, baseball. I mean, Aaron Judge is a big boy, but I don't think we want him in there.
You're too cheeked up.
I'm just gonna go as random as possible because fuck it, why not? And this is a guy who I only just recently found out is as tall as he is. I'm gonna pick Bailey Ober. Let's just put Bailey Ober on the team.
Have you not seen him? He's humongous.
I know he's huge. So I'll take Bailey Ober and just take my chances on the prospect and his size himself. So fuck it, Bailey Ober, Minnesota Twin, get on the team.
All right, I'm gonna cheat again a little bit here because this man never played in a four major professional sports, but he did play one of the four major sports professionally. I don't know how to pronounce this man's name. I believe Strahinja Jokic. Nikola Jokic's older brother.
I thought about
the real big one.
They're both
one who
real
looked
big.
like who wanted to kill I forget which Morris brother it was.
I think it was. Oh yeah, I don't remember either actually.
But that man, I've never seen a more menacing human being in my life than when that man wanted to just go and start taking. You're telling me that man's not a Serbian mobster, or if anything, he'll just like bring his horse or something, or just something will happen. And I need this man here.
I thought about taking Jokic himself with just the liberties of he gets to have his brothers, considering we are overall trying to build a 100-man cast. But yeah, I love that your brain went there because yeah, that man, they cut to him in the crowd, and I'm like, oh, he's killed people. Like, there's no way.
Genuinely, one of the scariest images was that man just like, what?
Yeah, the Morris twins could not do shit once they found out Jokic had those guys by his side. Yeah. All right, that'll wrap up our athletes to defeat the Gorilla Draft. Just to run through our team of what ended up being 10 again, and now hearing all these names next to each other is going to be even more chaotic. I've got Draymond Green, undrafted rookie Desmond Watson, Antonio Brown, Vontaze Burfict, Dan Hurley, Rashee Rice, Steven Adams, Vita Vea, Ric Flair, and Bailey Ober. Pat has DeMar Hamlin, Deshaun Watson, Antonio Cromartie, Sean McDermott, Lamar Odom, Harrison Butker, Eddie Lacy, Tony Stewart, Ronaldo Balkman, and Strahinja Jokic.
Tony Stewart one kills. I think he's like 5'5". He's not a big man. How tall is our boy? He's 5'9". Okay, he's 5'9".
I don't know what Tony Stewart's doing without the car, but I can't imagine it's going to be a whole lot.
But it's just the possibility of the car. It is.
Oh God! All right, that'll wrap up.
This
the draft,
was
folks.
absolutely fucking insane, man.
That'll wrap up the show for this week. Again, we'll be covering all the major news that happens from now till next week. But in the offseason, expect more utter goonery like this. We hope you guys enjoyed it.
Speaking of goonery, wait.
Go ahead.
Bran, our boy Gabriel, who I've shouted out a couple times, had the great idea to draft men that we would reasonably sleep with. But Bran shut it down. So if you want to see that one, reach out to us on social media. John Stamos is going to be my 101, just for reference.
I need you jailed. At the very least, like
institutionalized.
Something. Tested maybe.
They tried. You think I've been tested? Oh, give me a fucking.
What are the results? They can't be good. They can't have revealed anything good. Folks, for Pat Gustafson, I'm Brandon Carney, and we'll see you guys next time.
Antonio Cromartie fucking a gorilla. Bye-bye.
All right. We've somehow got 22 donations to catch up.
That's insane. We don't deserve a single one of them.
We don't.
With everything we just did.
I don't know if it's because of that draft.
Another one.
But all right, we'll start here. Camden with 5 said, "What's up, everyone? Hot take: Bo Nix will be a top 10 NFL quarterback, a top 5 quarterback in fantasy after the season. I wouldn't be shocked. He's mobile. He's got a good offense. He's got a good coach. It's a bold take to an extent, but I would not be shocked."
I could definitely see more so the top 10 real life quarterback, just in the sense that like I feel like there's becoming a bit of a gray area there, where it's like there's a lot of these guys that are like good, really good, but not like elite tier. So I could see that one happening. Top 5. I mean, if he can run, if he can run the way that he can to kind of pad that, then yeah. But I mean, I don't think I agree, but close.
Yeah. We've got our GP Glazer donation, $9.99. Just to read it again, it said, "I'm so sad. This is going to be my last dono. Thank you for mentioning me. By the way, I'm a Steelers fan." So our Steelers fan and George Pickens Glazer is going to have to find another player to glaze. Either way, GP, you never had to donate to begin with. We appreciate you just watching, but I am sorry.
We love you, loss. GP Glazer. Stay strong.
Alex with 2 said thoughts and Pickens as thoughts and prayers. Yeah, with the praying emoji.
You,
yes, thoughts and Pickens indeed. That guy with $20 said, which 3 games would you like to be on Thanksgiving, and which 3 non-kickoff, including the Brazil game, primetime games, would you like for week 1? What are your thoughts on some of the leaks, and what games would you give PT? All right, which 3 games would you like to be on Thanksgiving?
Well, you get Cowboys and Lions, which, again, granted, are good. Oh, the Lions, at least. That's good. That could be a great opponent. Give them the Vikings. Give them the Vikings
Lions-Vikings would be fun. I can co-sign that. Lions-Vikings. Who do we want the Cowboys to face on Thanksgiving?
Somebody awful. The Browns.
No, I'm tired. No, wasn't it? Didn't we get, we got Cowboys-Giants last year, I think. It was ass. Who are, actually...
Commanders, maybe? That's enough. If you want to stay in the division.
I was going to say we could go division just because we know those teams are playing them. I don't know who their opponents are. Future Dallas Cowboys opponents. All right, the Dallas Cowboys, they're going to be at home, right? That's usually how the Thanksgiving games work.
Yes.
I mean, they play the Chiefs this year at home, so that would be fun. Give me Cowboys Chargers on Thanksgiving. They're playing the Chargers.
Yeah, I
think
that.
That would be fun. And then what's the third one's just always like a fucking random game. Give me the Patriots.
And the Raiders.
Patriots Bills on Thanksgiving. Feed it to me. I'm in. Drake May will make Josh Allen his child. So that's what I'm going with. Let's see. Bucko with 5 said, Are the fixtures released tomorrow as just a Twitter post by teams like we do for football, or is it like the draft where it's on TV? I assume you mean the schedules.
Both.
It's both. It's generally simultaneous, where it kind of all comes out all at once. So yeah, you'll be able to find it online if you don't want to watch it on
Fixtures,
TV.
very soccer word, very British word.
Oh, is that what that? Yeah. Okay, that makes sense.
They refer to, in soccer, they refer to games as fixtures. I would know that because I work for ESPN.
Oh, you fucking dork. Imagine working for ESPN. Couldn't be me. Brandon Brock with $5 said, so if the Pope is from Chicago, does that mean God is on our side and we will be the new Chiefs, or is this just another one of God's moves to troll us?
The man's a White Sox fan. He's been through enough.
Yeah, I think I guess maybe his powers might be activated by officially becoming the Pope. I was going to say if he had any powers, he would have already done something for the pitiful White Sox.
I just think it's so goddamn cool that the Pope is just a full-blown American sports fan.
Yeah,
I
know.
I saw a tweet where it said that he's probably eaten more hot dogs than the rest of the Popes combined, and that's just fucking awesome, man. That's
Very
just
true.
awesome.
Very true. Let's see. Bucko with 20 said, is the Vikings playing back-to-back Europe games a test to check the viability for a European team expansion? Also, we have similar in Champions League draws where some balls were warm, so they knew which team was which. Okay, so you're referring to the draft
like a lottery
there. Yeah. I mean, it's possible. I feel like they probably already know more or less the viability of that, and I feel like it's probably inevitable at some point that we're going to get a London team with how fucking often they go over there. But maybe, it could very well be part of it.
Yeah, I think that. I don't think that was necessarily their motive when doing it, but it does. Bucko makes sense here. Yeah, because again, I just think it would be too hard to do on a weekly basis to have a team going back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. But I think they're going to try to push this as far as they possibly can. So maybe.
I wonder, if and when we do get a London team, if they are going to
maybe the silly nannies.
I wonder if they're going to heavily skew it to where they're mostly playing East Coast teams. They'll maybe schedule one road game for them against the fucking Cardinals or something, but otherwise
think
they're
going to be in the East Division.
East Coast. Right, for sure. But you still get the non-conference, teams or non-conference matchups. I imagine you're not going to send them to the West Coast 4 times in a year for a I don't know if it's special treatment, but specific treatment to a team. It'll be interesting if and when we do finally get that London team. Lucian with $2 said favorite rookie running back drafted to the AFC South. It's a good question, one that can only be answered by a particular sound effect.
And where does he play again?
Oh, fuck, where does he play?
Duval.
Bayshore 2 in RB1 season, baby. Let's go. No,
I'm sure you
first.
saw some of the genuine hype for him that's happened in the last
There is
week.
real hype. This
like,
is not unfounded. This is not a complete fabricated.
No, and
this
is just a complete coincidence that his name is awesome.
Yeah, this is not the equivalent of my stone smart or to even more of a degree that I didn't actually believe it was going to happen. The T. Conklin hype from last offseason. This is not the equivalent of that. This is a guy who actually could be a pretty good fucking player. And I am just hoping
going from the conch to going to the tootin'.
Let's see. Gwendolyn with $9.99 said, I'm sorry to ask Jordan Travis question in a previous show, March 25th. I way overvalued him. It's so sad his NFL career ended before it began because of medical retirement. Yeah, I do remember that question about Jordan Travis and the Jets possibly going to him. It sucks what happened to him, but unfortunately just part of our game sometimes, man.
And it costs, not only it cost Florida State a shot at the championship, and then he doesn't even have a chance to go play in the pros. Just who knows, what he could have been. But either way, the fact he doesn't even get a shot sucks.
Yeah, it sucks. Alex with $5 said the Bengals VP openly said that Trey should be happy at certain rates that maybe he doesn't think he'd be happy at. And said, Pat, get ready to be my therapist later. Yeah, that's not the kind of thing you should be publicly saying about your players.
That is just like straight gaslighting. Like that is just...
I mean, it's a shitty way to do what we all know is going on behind the scenes anyway, which is negotiating. Like you're saying you want to pay him lower than what he wants, but yeah, it is kind of a gaslighty way to put it. Like, hey, buddy, you're not actually as good as you think you are. Like, you should take what we're giving you and be happy. Shut the fuck up, you fucking weirdo. William, another trade question, said Trey Hendrickson trade value. Oh, gosh, I don't know. I mean, sack leader, 30 years old, I don't know. You don't think he's fetching a first rounder, do you? I would think because of the age and maybe the position, second round, couple of seconds maybe. I don't know that he would fetch a first, but I'm honestly not trying to think the last time a player like him got moved.
Let's think. I'm thinking about when there were Max Crosby talks about potentially being moved. Crosby, granted, is 3 years younger.
3 years younger and
a little better.
Better, I think. But I mean, not to disrespect Trey. Yeah, I don't know. I don't see a team giving up a first for Trey Hendrickson. I just don't see it. 30 years old, just seems unlikely to me. Devontae Adams was what when he got traded to the Raiders, Pat? Was he 30 or 29 when he first got traded to the Raiders? So aging, really, really good. And he went for a couple of seconds, I think, right? There was no first involved in that. So
no first in that.
I would think... I would think. Let's confirm. We have the technology here.
Khalil Mack, Bailey, another Raider. Thanks for reminding me.
Devontae Adams, Raiders trade. The Raiders traded. No, not the trade to the Jets, motherfucker. God damn it. Devontae Adams, Raiders, Packers trade. Acquired by the Raiders in a blockbuster trade with the Packers for. Oh, it was a first and a second. Okay, so there was a first involved. I still stand by maybe 2 seconds, but. Who knows? I could be wrong. I also don't think he gets traded. So, Omega with $1.99 said, you want rigged the MLB's draft lottery and umps.
Oh, buddy, you picked the wrong guy for this.
Pat, the umps are crooked. You hear that?
Well, Pat Hoberg was, but the lottery, I don't know. For somebody who likes baseball that much, I am so not into the MLB draft just because I'll know about these guys when they're about to hit the majors. I've never, so I don't know. That's the thing about baseball compared to football and basketball where guys are literally entering the league immediately as opposed to baseball guys where it could be 5 years until they're on our radar. Do you know how hard it would be to rig a baseball game? Do you know how hard it would be? And it would be so blatant. It would have to be so blatant to completely rig a baseball game like that. Especially with replay now on the bases. The ump would have to be, even in the worst games we see from some of these home plate umpires, you still can't even come close to saying they're rigged. No, the guys just suck.
Right.
The guys just, that would just be, are they bad? Of course. But that would just be so difficult to actually do.
Bucko with another 2 said, are you able to stream the kickoff game on YouTube? Don't know. Hopefully. Would love to be able to do that. Lucian with 2 said the car is parked. He called it a day. Yes, Derek Carr is officially parked. Pat, God, yeah. Omega with 499 said, also Bateman was inquired by Dallas for trade, but the Ravens didn't even entertain the deal. That's pretty funny. Yeah, I do remember seeing that. Rashad Bateman versus George Pickens. Who would be the better get for Dallas? I mean, I feel like it's probably more or less the same thing. But yeah, I'm not
serious.
I'm not surprised the Ravens. Not surprised the Ravens. I think Bateman's pretty good, and I think people are going to realize pretty quickly that Pickens is just not that great. Pickens a little better, but I don't know. I don't see them as being.
I mean, like, I think tiers. Could Bateman be as good as George Pickens? Yes, but it's just like, when the fuck is it going to happen?
I mean,
like, this guy was
he
the
finally
first
had
round
a good.
pick.
He's had his
moments.
Last year.
He's had his moments, but
45 catches, 756 yards. He had a bunch of touchdowns last year, so that was kind of where it finally materialized for him a little bit. Pickens had 900 yards and 3 touchdowns. So, I mean, Pickens had a big year two seasons ago, 1,140 yards. I think a lot of Bateman's issue is he just hasn't stayed healthy. And if he can, but, availability is an ability, and Pickens has been a little better.
And that is such a Mark Andrews-driven passing offense as well. And now, obviously, Zay Flowers has catapulted everybody to become the top wide receiver. So, in an offense like Baltimore, it is tough to actually have the stats reflect how good you are.
Yeah. Lucian with 5 said, give me Mark Henry for the squad against this gorilla. I love that. Mark Henry's a little old, but prime Mark Henry, yeah, absolutely. That is a big motherfucker. Legitimately the world's strongest man at one point, too. Alex with $2. Number one thing Burfict did was make AB funny on Twitter. I don't know if I'd call what he's doing any more funny. I mean, it's occasionally funny. It's also, he leans toward the Kanye side of things sometimes, too, where it's just being fucking weird for the sake of being weird, but I understand the perspective. Bucko with 5 more said, Brock Lesnar F5 to Shark. He'll do it to the Gorilla Suplex City. Yeah, Brock Lesnar's kind of canceled, so I'm not bringing him on my gorilla fighting team, but purely physically, yes, he would be a great addition. Lucian with 2 said, I was thinking of Ruggs at first. I think, honestly, that could have applied to a few of our picks, Pat. You mentioned, like, a guy who's
hit
actually...
with a car, yeah.
You mentioned hitting someone with a car, guy who's actually killed somebody. I mentioned a hit and run. There were a few different places that could have fallen in, but yeah, totally fair. Nate with 2 said this was maybe the funniest draft yet. Hey, we appreciate it, Nate. We aim to please
Nate.
here in the
next
fucking
week we're
off-season.
doing rounds 11 through 20 of it.
Continuing this for the rest of our lives. Bucko with 5 said, pick the genetic jackhammer Vincent Kennedy McMahon. Horrible person, so no one will miss him, but he has a 1-0 record against God himself. Vince McMahon did defeat God in a wrestling match. That is true.
Let's have Linda write a letter to the gorilla.
Linda is not writing a letter to the gorilla. Linda needs to go away. Alex with another 5 said, I'll draft a guy who comes out of nowhere, catches the opponent in a weak moment, and provides a heroic moment to give the humans the win. Chandler Jones.
Yeah.
I had John Bones Jones on my draft board, but Chandler Jones not a bad option. Lucian with 5. God, there's a lot of donations. Thank you guys for all the donations.
Yeah.
God, I'm out of breath. Lucian with 5 said, bare knuckle boxer and metal vocalist also may or may not have fought a bear. Alex Terrible. I don't know who Alex Terrible is, but apparently he's a bare knuckle boxer and metal vocalist who may or may not have fought a bear. So get him on the fucking squad, I guess, Pat.
Guy's got to be Eastern European. That's all I know.
Frederick Smith with 2 said Metcalf and Pickens impersonation forced to split. Oh God, I can't.
Are they the same person? Is that what we're hearing? Is that they're?
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah. I mean, it was kind of a redundant acquisition, so maybe that is fair. Lily with 199 said thoughts on the Greg Brooks Jr. and LSU situation. I actually am unfamiliar, Pat. You seem.
Oh,
familiar. I live in a hole. I don't know what's going on.
I may not be completely familiar, but the kid he had a brain tumor and had surgery, but apparently he was like showing signs of like head injuries and like nausea, vomiting like at practice. So the lawsuit they're filing basically is claiming negligence against LSU and the medical center in the sense that like these things were kind of just going, I don't know, not ignored, but I guess not taken as seriously. I just kind of heard about this. I don't know.
I see. Yes, allegations that Brian Kelly abandoned former player Greg Brooks Jr. after he had surgery to remove brain. Yeah, hey, anybody complicit in that fucking sucks. So that's my thoughts on it.
Would Brian Kelly ever be complicit in the death of an employee? I can't imagine that happening. Get him in there against the gorilla.
Brian Kelly, you're up. All right, any
but
questions?
But he has to talk in the Cajun accent.
Before we jump off here, Easy Sports said, "What is your ceiling and floor for my New York Giants?" Ceiling, 8 wins. Floor, 2 wins.
8?
I don't know. I could stumble into it. Look, ceiling. I don't think they're reaching
2.5 wins.
How are they getting 2.5? Oh, it's not a Vegas line. This is their best case scenario.
Oh, here we go.
Finish.
Here's
with
a good question here. Bailey asks, thoughts on MLB unbanning Pete Rose after he died?
Yes,
I will
Pat,
say
thoughts?
he is looking up on us with great joy today. I'm not a fan, personally. First of all, justice for shoeless Joe Jackson, because he never should have been banned in the first place. He pretty much was not a part of the Black Sox scandal, though apparently he was. I don't know. But hopefully he gets his rightful place in the Hall of Fame. Pete Rose, not to say that he doesn't necessarily belong in the Hall of Fame, but what Pete Rose did was way worse than anyone that took steroids did. Like, that, there is literally a plaque in every MLB clubhouse that says, "You shall not bet on baseball." And not only did he bet on baseball, he bet on his own team. And I don't care that he bet on them to win. I don't care what the hell he did. Like, he actively went against the cardinal rule of baseball, as opposed to these guys taking steroids who did something where the MLB was just like, "Hey, don't do this," and then they just kind of went like this. And, like, I do not see, I do not know. Like basically that, where the league did nothing and just basically profited off Mark McGwire and Sammy Sosa's home run chase. They rode the coattails of the steroid era and then decided, tisk, tisk, this is bad. You're going to tell me that Pete Rose is going to be in the Hall of Fame, but Barry Bonds and Roger Clemens, Mark McGwire, Sammy Sosa, Alex Rodriguez, Rafael Palmeiro are not in the Hall of Fame, but Pete Rose is going to be? That doesn't sit right with me. If you put them all in and put Pete Rose with him, fine. But, like, the hypocrisy of the situation makes me furious. You'll never find a bigger steroid lover in baseball. I'm PED Glazer. That's going to be my new YouTube name.
I'll be honest. I was pretty pro, like, Pete Rose should be in the Hall of Fame for a while, just because he didn't, because he didn't use steroids and because he was legitimately getting all these hits, even knowing the betting thing was fucked up. But my perspective was changed as of today when I found out that he apparently had statutory rape allegations.
You just found that out for the first time.
Yeah, I didn't know that.
He is not a good person.
No, he's a piece of shit.
I don't
so
even.
Fuck him.
Don't
go in the Hall
there are
of Fame.
plenty of bad people in the Hall of Fame. That's not what makes me want to keep him out of the Hall of Fame. Is that Ty Cobb is a huge fucking racist. Cap Anson was instrumental in keeping baseball segregated. Those guys are in the Hall of Fame. So it's like, yeah, he's a shitty person. That has nothing to do with his baseball. But the betting on baseball has plenty to do with baseball. If you're looking at his baseball career alone, no question about it. First ballot, 99% of the vote Hall of Famer. But I don't know why they're going to look past this now when there are some of the most famous and important baseball players ever currently sitting on the outside.
It's okay, though, Pat. He said he thought she was 16. So, justified. Couple other questions. Nico, happy birthday, man. Appreciate you. Nico Prods. Love the Nico Collins profile.
Is that Nico Harrison?
Nico
Collins.
I think it's actually Nico Collins.
NC Glazer.
Yeah,
there you go.
I think that's him. We have a new one. Let's see. Bran and Pat, what are your thoughts on the Niners draft class, and do you think they can win the Super Bowl? I mean, I think they focused heavily on defense, which is kind of what I thought they should do. And can they win the Super Bowl? I mean, they've got that Super Bowl-ish sort of DNA. It helps when a lot of your team has been there before. So, yeah, I definitely think it's possible. I don't think they are as much of a major, like, top-tier threat as maybe they were in years prior. But, yeah, I definitely think it's possible.
I think out of any team in the NFC that didn't make the playoffs last year, they're the most likely to get to the Super Bowl.
Absolutely. All right, folks, I'm going to call it there. I'm tired of talking. My throat hurts. Ayo. But we will be back here next week. For Pat Gustafson, I'm Brandon Carney, and we will see you next time.